Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome back to a brand new video. I'm sorry that I've been away from you guys for a number of weeks now, but there's a good reason that I've not been here. Right now I'm just sitting in my youngest daughter's bedroom because it's the place where I get the most quiet and we get the best light. So this is where I'm going to be making this brief video just to explain to you a little bit about what's been going on in the last month or so here in our lives. And the reason why I haven't been on this channel very much. Now, as you can probably gather from the thumbnail of this video, is that I've been having a little bit of a hard time in the last month or so. And that's not even from the position of a person who's been experiencing all the pain and the suffering. I'm just going to give you my perspective. I'm not going to tell you the personal story about my wife because that's her story to tell. It's not mine to tell, but I just wanted to share with you guys the experience of what it's like to have your entire world rocked and have your entire life turned upside down because of a medical diagnosis. Whilst I don't wish this on anybody, it's something that I just wanted to talk to you about and share my experiences and how I've managed to, I guess, partially successfully negotiate everything that's been going on, but also the number of times I've felt completely lost, miserable, failed, anxious, scared, all these other emotions that come into your brain when something happens like this. And I just want to share with you guys, if I can in any way be of any help or be any support to any of you guys who are going through the same type of thing that we've had to go through, I'm here for you. I can be your shoulder to cry on. I can just be a sounding board, something for you just to chat back and forth. If it will make you better and if it will make you feel a little bit safer, make you feel less stressed, anything that I can do, just hit me up, because I know how hard it is when someone you love, someone you care so much about, gets diagnosed with something that we never thought we would have to deal with, especially not at our young age. I mean, we're not totally young, but we're young enough that we didn't think that this was going to be something that we'd have to deal with right now, but we've had to. Cancer is not something that you wish upon anybody, and we've been lucky in many ways, but as I said, it's not my story to tell. That's a story for someone else to tell. But I just want to give you guys my experience and how I tried my hardest to navigate through what has been a really stressful... It's been a number of months, but especially over the last 4 weeks. And I just wanted to share that experience with you. And as I said, hopefully it helps. Hopefully it brings you some value, and hopefully it will give you some positivity and show you that things can happen, some good things can happen, and that you just never know what life has in store for you, and why it's so important that you just forget about all the pettiness and forget about all the trivial stuff in life and just go and continue to live and do stuff that's important to you and that is meaningful to you. Just get rid of all that little nitpicking stuff, because when something like this hits you, you just realize what's important and what's absolutely not worth it when it comes to the way your mind works. So when you get told of something like this, your brain just goes into all sorts of weird situations. Your whole mind just goes to a whole heap of weird places. And I can guarantee you now, from the moment that you hear the news or find out your diagnosis, your brain tells you everything that is possibly the worst thing that can happen. It takes you to these darkest, deepest depths of hell. And your brain essentially is not wired to make you happy. Your brain is wired to protect you from danger. So what it does is it comes up with the worst possible diagnosis. It comes up with the worst possible scenario. It's almost like a fight or flight thing, where it just basically makes you think the worst. Makes you can see your heart just sinks. Everything tightens up. You can't breathe. You know, that's what the brain does. And unless you can overcome that and you can tell yourself that there is hope, there is positivity in every situation, you're just going to go down into this deep, dark hole, which is really hard to get out of. And the first emotion that you feel when you hear something like this, especially when it comes completely out of the blue, something that you don't expect, is a feeling of disbelief. Like, you know, we just burst out into tears when we first heard the diagnosis. You just don't... It's just like a freaking nightmare. It just feels like it's not us. It just feels like it cannot be happening. It's almost like you just want to pinch yourself, and the next morning you wake up and everything will be fine. Almost like with COVID, it's like you just can't believe the state of the world is right now. and you just think it's just one huge horrible nightmare. But unfortunately, every morning that you get up, it gets a little bit worse. There is no snap out of it back into like reality. This is reality. And when you hear a diagnosis of cancer, as much as you wish that it would go away, as much as you wish that it's not true, unfortunately, that doesn't help the situation. So shock and disbelief are the first things you feel. And, you know, you can get to the point where you just are unable to function, you're unable to act just because of the amount of devastation that you feel right now. And all the information that you get kind of just goes in one ear and out the other because you're just not in a process, you're just not in a state where you're able to process any of this information. Everything is so overwhelming. It's even like when you go to see the specialist, when you go to the pre-admission clinic, when you get all this advice, when you meet all these people, it just feels like it's one freaking nightmare. You can't remember a dang thing that any of these people say. All you focus is on the little bits that are negative. This could happen, you might need this, you might need that. You just don't, it just affects you in a really negative way. When you get to meet all these people, when they paint to you the worst case scenario that you might not be able to get it all, you may need extensive surgery, you may need a stoma, you may need chemotherapy, you may need all this, you may need that. It's just, there's just no way out. You're trying to get some sort of semblance of control. And the thing about this situation is there is no control that you have. For someone like me who actually works in a way that I feel like most things you can at least take some sort of control over. You can decide whether you're going to do this, you can decide how you're going to do that, you can decide how you're going to feel this, you can decide if you're not going to feel that. You just don't have any control. Every step of this is uncertain. You don't know how long the surgery is going to take, you don't know if the surgery is going to be successful, you don't know if there's any complications in the surgery, you don't know what the result of the surgery is going to be. A lot of this is waiting, so you don't get any instantaneous answers. They may look at the area during surgery and tell you everything's fine, but then you're waiting a week for the pathology to come back. There's nothing that you can take hold of. There's nothing you can grasp that's going to like allow you to have any sort of control over the situation whatsoever. So you're languishing, you're tired, you don't sleep, you don't eat properly, and you pretty much, as speaking from a carer point of view, all you're consumed about right at this minute is to look after your loved one. You basically neglect all your basic needs. For me, eating was second place, didn't sleep, didn't really give a crap about anything else. I mean, the work was really nice. I managed to get a significant amount of time off work, but to be frank, if they fired me, I wouldn't have really cared. You neglect your family, the other members of the family, because you're just so focused in trying to get your partner well that you just neglect everything. The house goes into disarray. You don't have any food in the house, you don't have any groceries, you don't clean anything. And that's just something that just happens. It's not something that you plan. It's not something that you deliberately do. It's just that you're so overwhelmed that you don't have ability to control anything else, and everything starts falling apart. And one of the things is that as a carer, you need to be strong. You need to remain positive. You need to remain upbeat. And it's really hard when you don't eat, you don't sleep, you don't get enough nutrition in, you don't get any rest. You spend your whole days driving to and from the hospital. Every time you look at your wife or your husband or your mom or your dad or whatever, and you see the suffering that they're enduring, you see the pain in their face, you see the tears, and all you want to do is hold them. But you know that you need to do more than that. It's just so overwhelming. Every moment you start thinking about the worst, you start looking for answers. If you're a God-fearing person, which I'm not, but whether you believe or not, you ask questions, you ask why, you try and bargain your way out of things. You try and say, have you ever been sick? Like, have you ever had situations where your life is just plodding along, you're not very happy, you're complaining that you're not very happy, and then at some point you get sick, even if it's something like a cold, and you're out of business for a week, and you try and make promises, if you get me better, if I'm okay, I promise to change, and then nothing happens when the pressure's off. Well, you kind of do that in this situation as well. You make these deals, like if you help them pull through, I'm going to change this, I'm going to change that. And you start getting angry, you start asking questions, you start blaming things, you start blaming yourself, and you go through all these non-useful and actually negative emotions. And then there's Google. Now, we all know that we all consult Google. Even as a medical professional, we look up Google for stuff. I mean, let's be honest, we go to work and someone's got some weird disease that you've never heard of and you Google it. Google is useful when you're looking for specific things. Like if you don't know what umbrella tree syndrome is, you look that up and it tells you the symptoms and stuff like that and what it is. But what Google is really bad for is when you're clutching at straws and you're looking for hope. So when you're looking for positivity, like you're looking for things like 5-year survivals, you're looking at the risk of complications and personal experiences, people don't write stuff on the internet if there's nothing going on, is there's nothing wrong. So you're going to get a very biased opinion, you're going to get all the negatives, you're going to get the worst case scenarios, you're going to get a picture of all these complications, and the more you read about it, the more you basically shoot yourself. And my strongest advice for you in this situation is not to Google anything to do with what is going on, because it actually makes things significantly worse. You can't sleep because, one website says everything's going to be fine, and then 19 websites after that says everything's going to be fine, and all you need is one person to write something like, oh, my partner had the worst experience and she got this complication, and she died. And it takes over your thinking, and that one negativity out of 20 things, it's the thing you focus on the most. So Googling is out. Not looking after yourself, as I said, makes things worse. Not sleeping makes things worse. And you just got to imagine, like, if you let yourself completely just get consumed by this, and you're not eating properly, you're not sleeping properly, you're not taking care of yourself, and you're not looking after your basic everyday human needs, what's going to happen? You're going to crash, you're going to fall apart, you're going to be of no support to your partner when this happens. There's a really good chance that if you have to drive to the hospital every day, that you're going to crash your car because you're exhausted. You're not going to be able to think straight. You're not going to be able to ask the right questions when the doctors come. And you're just not going to be able to make sensible, rational decisions when you have had no sleep for 3 days on end. Another thing I wanted to say in this kind of crisis situation is that your loved one, the person who's actually got the problem, needs you. Now is not the time to fold like a cheap chair. Now is not the time to run away. Now is not the time to suddenly stop talking when you've always been a big talker. Now is the time to do whatever you need to help your partner get through the situation. So whether that's organizing stuff, whether that's trying to stay upbeat, whether it's trying to reassure them that the household is under control, that the kids are still getting to school, that they're still okay, or whether it's just sitting there holding their hand for 9 hours a day just to tell them that you're here, even though you know that's all you can do, that's sometimes what they need. The amount of love that I feel for my wife, which has always been like, I couldn't imagine loving her any more than I always have. You just go to this whole new, even higher level when you know that you care about someone so much that you don't want anything to happen to them, and when you hate seeing them suffer and you would almost rather take the thing upon yourself and that you wish it was happening to you and not them. That's the highest level of love and affection that you can actually ever bring. It takes a lot of guts to admit that you're scared. It takes a lot of guts to admit that you don't know what's going to happen next. It takes a lot of guts to reach out to people and say, I need help. But sometimes you do. You can't always do this alone. You need to have your friends about. You need to be able to share. You need to be able to unwind. You need to be able to offload some of this stress. Because if it's a husband and wife situation and one of you is sick, the burden is so heavily pushed onto the other that you can't do this alone. And it's been amazing the amount of people who have reached out to me and my wife, the amount of people who have offered their help. People baked cakes, made dinners, offered to look after the children and stuff like that. It's been amazing. It's really heartwarming to know that in a time of crisis that there are people who perhaps you only thought were acquaintances or casual friends, that they've just step up and they just help. And it just tells you that there is good in this world. Even though there's all this COVID stuff around, everyone else is under pressure, everyone else has their own stress and has their own shit. There are still people out there who want to help. And that brings so much joy into our hearts. We can never thank the doctors, the nurses, our family and our friends who have been here to support us during this horribly difficult, painful, long journey. And that you just realize who your friends and family really are in a situation of crisis. And it may surprise you who these people actually are. And at times you're going to feel like you can't. At times you're going to feel like everything is so overwhelming that you're just going to fall apart. You can't. You can't give up on your partner. They need you. They need you more than ever. And they need you to be there. They need you to hold your shit together. No matter how tough it is, you guys need to tough it out together. No matter how daunting, no matter how many steps there are, no matter how much fight you need, you're going to gather the strength and the courage to do it. because basically there's no other choice. There's no way you can run away from this. There's no place to hide. There's no place to go. You're going to have to face this like adults. It's very hard, and I know that it sounds harsh, but I've been given the same advice when we were going through the really bad part of all this, is that no matter how bad you feel, no matter how crappy the situation is, you're just going to have to deal with it. You're just going to have to suck it up. You're just going to have to man up, and you're just going to have to be there. What is the alternative? It's been such a hard year for everybody. As I said, with COVID, all the restrictions, all the people dying all over the world, everyone getting sick, and the fact that your freedom's been taken away, and all this stuff about how you can't go out anywhere anymore, you can't go on vacation where you want to, and all that kind of stuff. Be grateful for what you have, because you never know. You just don't know when it's all going to be taken away. COVID is horrible, but the truth is, for a lot of us, it affects us in a general way. It doesn't affect our ability to enjoy our family and our time together. Yes, it'll affect our work. Some of us will be out of work, but as long as none of our loved ones die from COVID, at least we've got another chance. And that's what you got to view. It's like all this crap that we used to worry about, you know, like I got the wrong coffee at Starbucks, or someone said something mean to me on the internet, and you know, I made a video and no one wanted to watch it, and it sucked and all that kind of stuff. Really? Really? Is that really so important? Really? Is it so bad? I mean, like, there's stuff you'll get over, but what you won't go over is the time you waste not spending it with your loved ones the way you want to. And I'm telling you now, we're going to change everything. No more are we going to be petty about stupid things. We're going to just try and live every day to the best of our ability. Some days it's going to be crap. Some days we're not going to be able to deal with the stuff as well as other days. But we just got to keep remembering what we have and what we might not have if things turned out a different way. And it'll bring everything into perspective. It'll put everything into context. And I've been trying to teach the kids as well, is just that we've got to treasure every single moment we have with the people we care about. Life is about having experiences. Life is about having fun. Life is about spending time with the people you care about. Life is not about earning as much money as you can, but it's about what we can do with what we have and how we can make ourselves and the people we care about as happy as possible. I know sometimes it takes something really serious to remind us of what is really important, but my advice to you is, if you're blessed with a situation where there isn't anything so bad and horrible, it may even be worthwhile imagining the worst case scenario, imagining if you were this close to losing someone you cared about so much. Would you worry about the fact that they didn't make their bed? Would you worry about the fact that they'd said something a little bit mean to you? What is actually the important stuff? And once you make that a priority, all the other stuff becomes not only less important, but actually becomes unimportant and irrelevant. Life is about living. Life is about doing stuff with the people you love for as long as you possibly can, and not to waste our time nitpicking and being petty about stuff which makes no difference. The fact that you would drive an extra 20 minutes to save $5 when you're trying to buy something, stuff like that becomes completely ridiculous when you think that you have no control over so many other things. Like, for example, I used to be someone like that, where I would drive an extra half an hour just to save $20 on something. But when you visit your wife in hospital every day and the parking is $30 a day, and you've been in there for 14 days, that's like $400 you spent on parking. That $5 or $10 pretty much becomes irrelevant, doesn't it? So it's a matter of getting priorities right. It's getting everything into the right perspective, and just to make sure that you're taking care of the things that are important. Things that are important to you and your family, not the things that you think are important to everybody else. So go out there and create stuff, sing, dance, jump, kick a ball, make new friends, go on adventures, whatever you feel right here in your heart that you've always held back because you always thought that there'd be a chance later on. Do it now, because you never know. Be grateful for the little things. That's the stuff that makes us smile. It's not the money, it's not the big house, it's not the flashy car. It's the little things. It's the little kiss you get on the cheek in the morning. It's the little hug. It's just a little smile, the little wink, just the tenderness and stuff like that. That's the important stuff in everybody's lives. That's really the most important thing. I don't know what else I have to say about it. I don't know what else I need to say. From a carer's perspective, you just know you're going to go through all these huge emotions, but you just need to get yourself into the right mindset. You've got to hold yourself together to support the person who really needs you right now. So that's the end of this video. If you want to reach out, if you have anything to share, if you just need a shoulder to cry on, if you just need to just burst into tears and just let a stranger like me listen to what you have had to go through, I'm here, okay? Just hang in there, stay strong, and be there for your family in this really tough time. I wish you all the best. I love you guys, and I'll speak to you soon in another video. Promise to be a little bit more upbeat, but this is a video that I really wanted to put out. I've been trying to do it for a number of weeks now, and it just never felt right, but today it just felt like it was right. Take care of yourselves, and I'll speak to you real soon. See ya.